You've made the call, you're going to live aboard, but now you're stuck on the question that splits every serious live aboard community straight down the middle. Trawler or power catamaran? But before you set foot on either boat, I'd urge you not to treat this like a preference question. It's a lifestyle equation. Get it right and you spend your mornings with coffee in hand, perfectly at rest in exactly the kind of boat that fits how you live on the water. Get it wrong and you'll be boat shopping again soon. By the time you're done watching this video, you'll know exactly what's right for you and your cruising plans. The first variable in what I call the Liveaboard Equation is space. More specifically, how that space is distributed and what you can live with. Power cats are hard to beat here. At any given length, a well-designed power catamaran gives you more deck real estate, a wider salon, and a cockpit that genuinely functions as an outdoor living room. You're spanning the full beam of 2 hulls with a bridge deck in between. That's a fundamentally different amount of floor space than any monohull at the same length. Trawlers concentrate their space differently. The interior volume can be surprisingly generous, especially in beamy designs with a full flybridge. One experienced trawler owner we spoke with felt his boat had more usable interior volume than the cats he'd toured, thanks to a deep, wide hull and a flybridge that comfortably seated a dozen. He wasn't wrong about his specific boat. But here's the contrast that matters. Cats win on deck, trawlers win on how efficiently that space is stacked below the waterline, where the useful things live: tanks, storage, the engine room. Forget for a second which boat has more space. Instead, ask yourself where you'll actually live on that boat. You're probably thinking, okay, but what does it cost to actually run one of these things day to day? A 40 to 50 foot full displacement trawler running at 7 to 8 knots burns roughly 6 to 8 gallons per hour, total. Some single engine designs do even better. Well-designed power cats will easily match that at the same displacement speed. Where power cats crush trawlers isn't fuel efficiency. Hear me out. Hull design is what matters here, as most power cats aren't constrained by physics and can leave displacement speed in their wake. The option to speed up at times, to outrun a storm, or return to the marina before sunset is the biggest luxury. You have the choice, but when you push a large power cat above displacement speeds, the fuel burn climbs fast. If your plan involves long offshore passages on a tight fuel budget and slow speeds aren't the enemy, then a trawler may work for you. That also explains why many sailors choose trawlers when they go to the dark side. Steady 8 knots can feel exhilarating to someone who's been strapped at 6 knots under power for most of their life. Quick pause here. If you're actively working through the decision between these 2 platforms and want to talk through with a brokerage team that's worked with both, head to currentyachts.com and drop your question in the comments. We're happy to help you think it through. Now, back to the comparison. Here's what most comparisons oversimplify and where buyers get genuinely surprised after purchase. There are 2 types of stability that matter when you live aboard: stability underway and stability at anchor, and the winner is different for each one. At anchor, cats dominate. It's not even close. Power cats sit flat on the water. Trawlers, especially lighter semi-displacement designs, roll. The gentle, relentless rocking that turns a peaceful anchorage into an involuntary workout. Cat owners sip their drinks without spilling. Trawler crews learn to set a stern anchor to keep the bow into the wave action. Or, on more equipped boats, they add a gyro stabilizer. Underway, modern trawlers with active stabilizer fins compete hard. One seasoned trawler owner installed Naiad fins and said his boat felt virtually equal to the cats he'd been on while moving. The operative phrase here is "while moving." Active fins work beautifully at speed, but they don't help at anchor unless you've invested in a zero-speed stabilizer or a gyro. So, cat ownership means stable nights at anchor by default. Trawler ownership means eventually investing in stabilization technology to get there. Factor that into the real cost of each model. The purchase price conversation is where a lot of buyers get tripped up. They compare asking prices, think they've done the math, and then move on, but they haven't. Good 40 to 50 foot liveaboard ready trawlers commonly trade in the $150,000 to $400,000 range. Comparable power cats, especially the established brands, usually sit higher for the same length. That gap varies by model and condition, but it's real. But the more consequential number is the ongoing costs that stack differently on each vessel type. Slip fees are the obvious one. Many marinas charge multi-hull boats 1.5 to 2 times the rate of a comparable length monohull because they occupy more dock width. Then there's the double everything rule on cats. 2 engines, 2 transmissions, 2 sets of through hulls, 2 of the most systems. More to maintain, more to insure, more to replace eventually. That's not a reason to avoid a cat. It's a number that belongs in your spreadsheet. Trawlers, particularly single-engine designs, simplify that equation. 1 engine room, 1 drivetrain, and often a much larger, far more accessible engine room than you'll find on most cats. If you're running actual numbers on a specific boat and want a team to help you stress test the budget before you make an offer, reach out to us at currentyachts.com. We do this every day for buyers at every level, and we'd rather you go in with eyes wide open than discover a surprise 3 months later. If rough weather concerns you, I commend you for thinking through this decision. Even if you aren't planning an immediate ocean crossing, rough weather will eventually find you. On the East Coast, on the Gulf, in the Pacific Northwest, it will find you. Modern power cats with good bridge deck clearance handle offshore conditions well. That clearance piece matters more than most buyers realize because low clearance cats slam in head seas. The water comes up between the hulls and hits the underside of the bridge deck hard. It's not usually structural damage, but it's fatiguing and uncomfortable in a way that wears on a crew over a long passage. Heavy full displacement trawlers move differently, slower, heavier, and more predictable in a seaway. These workhorses can handle rough conditions that would otherwise beat up a lighter boat. The honest answer? Both types are capable offshore when properly designed and properly handled, but this is where specific models matter more than platform category. Don't buy a type, buy the right boat within that type. Most people stop the comparison at specs, but actually the question that determines the right answer for you is far simpler. What does a typical week on the water look like for you? If your plan is long-range passage making, running the intercoastal, crossing the Gulf, extended offshore passages, then fuel range and mechanical simplicity are priorities. A well-found trawler is hard to argue against. The economics are real, the range is real, and the lifestyle, once you've dealt with the anchor roll question, is deeply satisfying. If your plan is coastal liveaboard life, weekends at anchor, marina stays, entertaining with friends and family on the hook, and you want maximum deck space and effortless stability from day one, a Power Cat delivers that in a way a monohull simply can't replicate. One couple we know chose their trawler specifically because it was the most cost-effective way to start living aboard immediately. They made that choice clear-eyed. They love their trawler, but they still walk the docks admiring every catamaran they pass. You see, there's no wrong platform, there's only wrong matches. And bottom line, trawlers reward patience, range, and simplicity. Power Cats reward space, at anchor stability, and a lifestyle built around coastal comfort and entertainment. The Liveaboard Equation has variables only you can fill. Your budget, your intended cruising range, your tolerance for motion at anchor, and what you actually want your day aboard to look like. If this video gave you something useful, like it and subscribe. We publish new content every week covering everything from buying and selling boats to financing, marine surveys, and the real business of living on the water. You'll want to watch this next video on the best features to look for in a motor yacht. I'll see you there.